The issue of same-sex acceptability and approval of similar libertarian practices, especially in the Western world, has become a major political discussion and a clear point of disconnect with the more conservative global South. The United Nations has been providing a platform for harmonization of positions on this matter, but rather than finding a consensus, the gulf in positions continues to widen. Well, joining us now to have a quick chat around the emerging angles is human rights lawyer and chairman, Human and Constitutional Rights Committee of the African Bar, Soni Ekwowusi. Well, we also hope to extract answers to key legal questions around the issue of surrogacy in Nigeria. Good morning and welcome to the show.
I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you for being here.
Good to see you again.
Well, let's get straight into it. I mean, given your recent participation in the 68th session of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women and the Summit of Surrogacy, what are some of the key insights that you gained regarding, let's say, the global discourse on surrogacy and what those implications are for Nigeria? Because we're seeing surrogacy on the rise now.
Yes, very on the rise, and then Nigerians are practicing it. And, you know, first of all, to say that surrogacy is against natural law, and it's also against Nigerian law. A lot of people don't know that surrogacy is illegal in Nigeria. Because surrogacy, what it simply means is, you know, to kind of mixing the eggs and the sperm and the egg and putting it inside the womb of a woman. It's actually called womb renting. Womb renting. And the woman, you know, carries the baby for 9 months and delivers the baby and gives the baby to the person who wanted the baby, you know. And then the same woman goes about and does the same for another person, for Mr. B, for Mr. C, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, you find that that woman becomes an object, you know. That's why we said that, or why it is said that surrogacy is the greatest violation of woman's dignity. It is the greatest violation of the identity, you know, of a woman. You know,
sorry,
and that's why the law has,
I was going
the
to
law,
come to
yes,
the parts of the law.
Section
Which
30,
law?
Section 30 of the Child Rights Act.
Okay. What does it say?
Criminalizes, and it says that, look, anybody that involves in child buying, child selling, and child exchange, you know. That
would that apply to a child, a fetus in the womb, or a pregnancy?
Oh no, yes, I mean a child that is born, because one policy says that a child that is born is exchanged, you know, is given out, okay, by the mother.
But technically, it's
another
not
person,
your child.
To another person.
It's not your egg.
Well, it's very, at times,
fetus.
this egg is mixed, okay. It's also because surrogacy also has to do with design of a baby. They go to Russia or for instance, or go to China, you mix eggs, bring it to Nigeria, and put it inside the womb of the baby. So at the end of the day, don't even know the person's child because the sperm has been imported, you know. So it's mixed and put into the woman, and the woman delivers the baby and gives out. That's where the law comes in, and gives out. You know, so it also has to do with child trafficking. That's where the law, Nigerian part of the Child Trafficking Act, also condemns surrogacy and criminalizes it, you know. So you have two laws in Nigeria, the Child Rights Act. You have the trafficking law against it, and also you have the National Health Act, Section 10, talks about trafficking in human zygote and human embryo. Because that's what it's all about. The Nigerian National Health Act, you know. Also because it's all range of confusion at the end of the day, whose child it is, you know. And then that woman becomes like an object. That woman never recovers, you know, who does this. Because she gives birth to a child and gives it out, you know. And then there is, you know, there's a bonding between a woman and a child after, I mean, a woman gives birth, there's a bonding. Okay, that bonding is disconnected because the woman gives her the child to somebody else, you know, and does the same for Mr. B and Mr. C. So at the end of the day, it's all whole range of abuse. And that's why surrogacy is completely out of the question, it's outlawed. And then talking about
let's just be clear here.
Yes.
Is it illegal, or is it that it is not acknowledged? I mean, when you say it is legal and outlawed, what specific law is that? Because I don't.
Yeah, that is section.
Is
you
it
know,
no?
Section 30 of the Child Rights Act.
What does it state?
It says no that anybody that anybody that buys, sells, and exchanges a baby, okay, commits a crime and is punishable. I can't remember the term now.
Yeah,
okay?
but that doesn't
yes,
mean
and
that
goes,
it's just not acknowledged. It doesn't mean that it is saying that.
It
so
is,
when you what do you say about IVF and all of that?
Well, IVF is also, they also have to do with something. IVF, there are no specific law that punishes IVF in Nigeria,
right.
okay? But if you follow the argument people are making in this section 30, okay, and this National Health Act, IVF also falls into the same thing. IVF is also condemnable because it also has to do with trafficking in embryo and eggs and all that. It is. I mean, I know the problem. The social problem is solved that people want baby and they want to get it by all means through this, But when you look at the unethical angle, when you look at the abuses that is involved, and when you look at the exploitative nature of the whole thing, especially regarding the woman who is involved in it is terrible. I mean, first of all, when you look at it morally, ethically, legally, it is so absurd because at the end of the day, you don't know that child, you don't know who the child belongs. The conference I attended in Rome at the Luther University, there was somebody who came out who was who came to life through surrogacy, one can say a product of surrogacy was at that conference. And she delivered the paper. She's now grown up, very beautiful girl, married. And when she was leaving her paper, she was crying. And when they asked her, she said, look, anytime she remembers the way she came to life, her background, she doesn't quite, somehow. So at the end of the day, this of coming to life, the way it has been made, through normal conception, the man and a woman, once it is disrupted and disfigured, something society pays for it.
Shouldn't the focus be trying? You've spoken about how easy it is for such situations to become exploitative.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, for a woman or a man and woman that are trying to bring a child into this world and can't do it physically and opt to go for IVF, it's still that man's sperm, it's still that woman's egg, and it's still that woman carrying it. But in the case of surrogacy, before, like you said, we get to a situation where it's womb renting, that woman in itself has to give up the rights or has to agree. As it's practiced, like I'll say in the United States, there's a payment, there's a contract that is signed. So instead of kind of labeling it illegal, isn't it what looking into it and trying to see what can be done?
You can regulate and all that. People have talked about regulation, but at the end of the day, if you regulate, that, for instance, what it does is that people from the back door tries to do this and there are all sorts of abuses. People have come to my office and they wanted me to drop an agreement between the man and the woman came, and the man wanted me to drop an agreement so that the lady would give birth to, through surrogacy, for him. And I said, look, there are all sorts of complexes. I wanted money and all that. But at the end of the day, the woman could, after delivering the baby, say, look, I want the baby for myself. I'm not giving it to you, okay? What are you going to do? So it's so complex. It looks easy, but it's not as easy as that. But what it does to the woman, that's why women who are talking about protection of women's rights, they should not want this, because what it does that it treats the woman as a mere object. It exploits the woman, it abuses the woman, because what that woman does, the woman becomes a common carrier, carrying for Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, Mr. C. It is terrible at the end of the day.
You don't think that they have a right over their body and their choices?
They have a right. Of course, they have a right, but at the end of the day, they are abusing themselves. At the end of the day, they have a right.
Well, that's you think.
If you have a right over your body.
Let me expand. Where I'm going. One is to ask. Has this law on surrogacy, has it ever been tested in Nigeria?
No, it has not come to court in Nigeria.
But I have to also say, there is no legal jurisdiction. There's not been any pronouncement.
No, there's no. No. It has not come to any court.
So I don't know why we should term
it. But other jurisdictions in the US, it has gone to court, and the judges are making very contradictory pronouncements. Today for, tomorrow against. Because
in Nigeria, there's
the circumstances is not so straightforward, because. Like I said before,
So if it's not straightforward, why then will you say that it is illegal?
No.
As far as the
the law is concerned.
I mean, the Child Rights Act is concerned now.
Or the interpretation of the law.
No, interpretation. That's where it goes. I mean, you have to read it. I'm talking about, and also trafficking in human in child rights. You know.
Okay, so where I'm going is that is this argument an extension of the sort of position that you hold? You've been here before, and you spoke about abortion and why you're against it. I've read some of your views regarding the United Nations, issues in March, and now you think that the Global South just couldn't change the views of the Global North in this bid to try to insert LGBTQ. I mean, are these conservative views from abortion to homosexuality that you are now bringing to?
No, it's not actually. You know, you mentioned the United Nations. You know, I just discussing it before coming here that what is done there is what the US is doing in the global world. The United Nations is supposed to represent all the nations, you know, when it was founded in 1945. But what happens that United Nations, the revelation, you have impositions from the US and the EU. And that is not good for Africa. No, despite your view on abortion and homosexuality, they should allow the nations to assert their sovereignty to play, because my gross and our argument is that they should not impose these things on us. We have our values, we have our culture and all that, okay? And that our culture and values are all against all this LGBT abortion. At the UN, I was there in March, and what happened? The African group are saying, look, why do you bring all these things? What we're talking about? We're talking about the empowerment of women and all that, talking about gender equality, and you are bringing all these deceptive, euphemistic expressions.
So when they say gender equality and gender-based terms, you think that is...
No, euphemism, because the African group, we are saying, look, give a definition. If you look at gender, gender should mean male and female.
Yes.
But if you make gender to connote other things, because that's why they wanted sex, because sex is clear, sex talked about male and female. By the time you bring gender, gender connotes LGBT terms and all that, and that's why the African group.
That's lately.
They do want
before.
Exactly. You may be right before, but right now they have hijacked that term. So it's safer to now talk about sex instead of gender, because gender is not giving what is called social construction instead of biological construct,
which is highly political, and especially in Africa, where there's a strong opposition for the LGBTQ plus community. In Nigeria, homosexuality, you get a prison term of about 14 years. Only, I believe, in February there was a bill that was passed in Ghana for imprisonment. I mean, it was a huge debate in Ghana. And now, you are saying...
my argument is that the one of Ghana, the one of Uganda, the West has now imposing sanction on them for things. We are saying, look, about the issue of sovereignty, these are independent countries. Allow us to be, forget about the religious or moral angle. On political terms, let these countries be. If they want to pass any law that is against LGBT, they should do so. And that's what's happening in United Nations.
But you're a human rights activist. Yes, you're about the freedom of expression, the freedom to commute, and the freedom of human beings to coexist together as they wish.
Freedom of sexual orientation.
No, I'm putting you as a freedom fighter, as a lawyer on the spot here. I mean, you should be the one, championing these conversations. And your thoughts on that? You're saying let the countries be that. Isn't that against your?
No, it's not, because when I'm saying that everything cannot be right, license cannot be right. Otherwise, somebody can say, okay, corruption is my right. You have to say, no. Corruption cannot be your right.
That's not an argument. That's not
it's the same thing. Stealing, corruption. No, it cannot be. Stealing, corruption. Somebody can say.
Correct argument.
So, proper human right has to be founded on the nature of the human person, on the philosophical conviction of the human being. So you cannot say everything cannot be right. Nakedness is right, and then.
No, but there are set laws already, there are set laws, there are set rules about freedom of expression.
No, what you are saying that freedom, freedom is not a license. Freedom you can swing your hand as much as you can, but don't hit another person. In the case of homosexuality and abortion, what you are saying that the states, African states or member states have said, look, considering our cultural value and our philosophical values, we can't allow this. to be, because we're also a people, we are different from the West. You have to respect that. You can't say, it is my right to go against that, but the state is saying, no, you can't do that because it's against our culture and our values, okay?
What about
that's why the
human
African
person?
countries, no, the human versus, once it has to do with,
person, yeah.
when it has to do with something that has to do with human life, okay? Something that has to do with your being as a people, you can't say it's my right. Your being, your origin, what defines you. There's something that defines us as Africans, So
you're saying
you can't go against that.
So you're saying that the government has a right to dictate what a woman does with her body.
No, it's not. The government has a right to say. If the woman said, if the government said, look,
But
to kill is wrong, you can't say I have a right to do what I like with my body.
Yeah, because if it's my reproductive system and I decide that I want to carry a
but
child.
But you are killing a human being.
Not
necessarily. You are dealing with a human being.
Not necessarily.
So the state has the right to come in because, you see, religion and
this is a big argument, and I don't think we'll have enough time to dissect this conversation. But I'd like for you to come back so that we can discuss this further. But it is interesting to see a freedom fighter like you. Probably even just go against
human
rights. I call him a freedom fighter. Anybody who's a human rights activist, a freedom fighter, a human rights activist like you, speak on human rights. I'd love to see that a lot more shade on.
All right, then thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time and your presence here on The Morning Show.
Okay.